Welcome back to TWC Home Improvements podcast. It's episode 8, and we're going to do something a little bit different this time in terms of, it's not a subject per se. We're going to actually address sort of 20 of the top questions that are raised by clients, staff, etc. And we sort of compiled a list of those, and we're going to work round with these two. And I am going like this time. I'm in the middle because I'm having to keep them apart.
Holding us apart.
Joe, Andy, welcome back.
How are we doing?
Why on earth am I keeping you apart?
It's been a bit of a frosty week, to be honest with you. I'll set the scene.
It's like the gloves are off,
So,
isn't it?
yeah, definitely, very much so. So TWC were very, very proud that we got shortlisted for a couple of awards at the Southwest Business Awards. We had a swanky affair on the night.
You boys look good in your tuxes, mate.
Yeah, we took a lot of the team. We took a lot of the installation department, who kind of got us to be shortlisted, and there was a big soiree at the Hilton in Swindon. 24 tables, lots of businesses put forward for various different awards. There was quite a few sort of categories, and TWC were very, very proud of the fact that we got nominated for Business of the Year, Employer of the Year, and a little bit of a touchy subject. We both got nominated, myself and my esteemed business partner, got nominated for Male Entrepreneur of the Year. And basically what happened on the night...
Oh, right. We've heard your version enough times. Really like... Chris, you seem like a really sensible man, if I'm being honest with you. So we've gone to these awards, and you know, we've done the applications and spent a lot of time, and obviously Joe was heading up the applications in helping through it, and we're sending the ones off. So obviously when we both got nominated for Entrepreneur of the Year, I was a little bit suspicious, going, well, what, have you actually sent my application in? And I didn't know whether there was...
This is just a blank page.
Yeah. And anyway, on the night, sort of sat there, and I don't know if you've been to these sort of final dinners, and you know, you get finalists and you all go there. And during the final, they sort of announce one or two people that have gone to, you know,
above and beyond.
Above and beyond. They've got your nominees, and these are the guys that are in the final, and then you announce the winner.
Yep.
So we're in there, and you know, we're both sort of looking, and I thought it was a bit weird us both being up for the same award, but you know, I'm just whatever, it is what it is. So we get there on the night, and we all sat there having a bit of a laugh. We were shushed a couple of times.
I'm surprised.
And
He loves being shushed.
and the finalist for Male Entrepreneur of the Year award goes, and there was, you know, from so-and-so, and then names, not fair. And then there was Andrew Hill from TWC. And then they announced the winner. Unfortunately, I wasn't the winner, I was the runner-up. But there was no mention of a Joseph Heaton.
I think you'll find there was a big overhead projector, a big screen on the back.
Yes.
There was 3 pictures that were put up. It was a picture of Andrew, and he is correct, his name was read out, alphabetical order, I suppose, and there was a picture of me and him.
Yeah, and the picture, we'll send the picture so everyone can see this. The picture is of me and Joey in the background sort of trying to get in on the picture. And basically what's then happened is my wife, who is now my ex-wife, she made a very, very fatal flaw. She threw away 17 years of happy marriage, happy being together marriage, and she went up to get the certificates. Now, obviously, I assumed you were going up to get a certificate for being in the final, the actual 2 in the final, or runners-up or something like that. And unfortunately, all of the certificates say finalist. Everyone in the room was a finalist.
Yes, of course.
Only 2 people got, and you've been to these awards. That's what happens.
Well, I'm normally hosting them rather than receiving them. But...
Sorry. The grown-ups are talking. And then they've announced my name, and then my wife, they gave me a certificate for actually being in the final, which is being framed at the moment. You'll see his. He's brought his fake award.
Brought mine along with me. Yeah. So, you know, I got it framed the very next day. As
it clearly says, he was a finalist. I was actually a runner-up. I came second in the award. He was in the top 8. And my wife, at that moment, he was sulking, and he actually was quite rude. He was quite nasty. When I didn't win, because I was up for it, he went, "Oh, thank God for that." which was really nice. No support at all. It was quite nasty.
Well,
and
actually,
then
I was just happy to be there, to be honest. That was.
And then he walked out and he was really stroppy and it was really red-faced and angry. And it wasn't until my dear wife, who's now my ex-wife, I can never forgive her, who at the moment when they said, oh, Joe's got a certificate as well, she could have gone, yeah, don't worry about that one. I'll just take Andy's. She took his, which now has got him in his head going, well, we actually drew. It was both of our awards.
So, well, I've actually since emailed the organiser of the event to get some clarity on that.
And they've still not responded.
Yeah. Something bounced back for some reason.
No, but joking aside, it was a great event. It was really fun to take the staff and do things with the employees and have a bit of a laugh. It was really fun. It was
and
really
it is that thing, I think we said that really, didn't we? Well, actually, at any point on a random Wednesday, we could have taken 10 members of the team out and we could have gone for a drink and stuff like that. But actually, it was, getting all dressed up, going to there was just something about that, wasn't it? And it was great to be shortlisted and we really enjoyed the evening. It was,
you were just a big fan of taking part, wasn't you, on the night?
Big time.
Yeah.
I was just there applauding.
Anyone that's ever met this man knows for a fact he's
you didn't win, so to me, second is first loser anyway. Anyway, how's this podcast going on?
Well done, guys. That's why I'm keeping you apart. But congratulations.
First time you've seen each other.
Yeah. Well done. An awesome night. And
really fun
job individually and to TWC, of course. Right, so we're doing something a little bit different, and it's sort of almost 20 common questions that arise.
No, I haven't seen these questions. Have you vetted these questions? Because I feel like a little bit like I should have vetted them before.
Do you want to know the scariest thing? Neither have I.
Oh, God.
Strap yourself in. We're going on a journey.
Surely we should have been pre-warned.
No, it's more fun. I just thought, let's just light the paper and see what happens.
Yeah, and I think a reason that this excited me to do this as a podcast is I think what we've always wanted from this podcast is it to not be a sales pitch. For me, it's always been, well, actually, we do a lot of that anyway. We get out there with our videos and bits and pieces like that. We wanted to do a podcast for people that, for customers, for prospective customers, for people that are just interested in the home improvement sector and stuff like that. And actually what has been amazing, and I know we've laughed about the fact no one watches this other than my mum and stuff like that, but I have actually genuinely spoken to quite a feat of customers that said, oh yeah, we saw that on the podcast, or we said, and they've brought up little things that have been talked about.
Educational, informative.
Exactly, yeah.
We're doing a lot of Joey's family work at the moment.
It's not, and it isn't, are we great? It's, well, look, we do a lot of this work. We fit a lot of jobs. There's a lot of parts of our sector that are a little bit mysterious, I find sometimes, and we've kind of tried to banish that and let's talk about what we do. And if people want to take, then great.
Yeah, I love the fact you can't just say mysterious. You've got to act out the word mysterious.
Yeah.
I know. It's really great. If anyone's ever watched any of his sort of videos he does for TWC, I often really sort of slate them because he does this.
Look at episode 7. There's a brilliant clip that goes in there.
It's a sort of a rave, isn't it? But no, fire away.
Big fish, little fish, cardboard box. I got you.
Yeah.
Right, first question. And by the way, is that this is just a cross section. We'll get through as many of these as we can. There might be some available, but if anybody else has questions, either put them in the comments to this particular video or podcast, wherever you're watching or listening to it, or drop a line to the guys. And please, we'll address those questions because that's what's really helpful, is what you really want to know. First one. I like this one. What's the best type of window for reducing noise from a busy street? So we've got a busy street right on it. Is there a particular window that can reduce that?
There is. I think that actually what a lot of people ask us about that, they'll often say about, is triple glazing going to do this or is that? I think actually the real answer is that by replacing your windows for just a regular A+ rated double glazed unit will make a huge difference. And that's probably a benefit that people often don't think about. So a lot of the reason, they're thermally efficient to keep the energy, you know, the warm air in and everything like that. But actually what they naturally do is make it a lot better at reducing the noise.
Yeah.
And also a lot of the older windows, it's the way they've been fitted. There's gaps in between the frame and the brickwork and stuff
aging,
like that.
presumably the gap can increase. With aging over
And you got your seal around the window and stuff like that, which often has deadened and hardened.
Yeah.
So you're actually getting, you know, a lot of windows we go to, you can see daylight through the sash or through the actual frame.
I've also had examples where you go to shut the window and now the mechanics within it are not sort of working great, and you suddenly get one corner's not even closing fully.
Yeah, and I think
with an almighty crunch and horrible.
Yeah, I think upgrading to something that's obviously new, it's A+ rated, will give you that benefit of noise over a wooden or older PVC window.
Yeah.
But also just to sort of touch upon that question, because it might be that whoever asked that question or it lives near like a railway station or something. Oh, perfect. But so for an example, there's an estate near Didcot train station. The name goes past me now, but I think it might be Ladybrook. I might be wrong, but we did a property there that their back of their house actually goes on to the train station.
Wow.
And they had the windows were installed originally as double glazed on the new build estate. The quality of new build estate windows, PVCs, is arguable. I'm not going to get into that, but so the customer really wanted to understand, because they had double glazed windows already into the property, how they could block out that noise. And if you've ever lived anywhere, I lived in town centre once in Swindon, they are really, really loud. So what we recommended was your A+ rated double glazed windows with acoustic glass. Now, acoustic glass is more expensive than standard glass, but you can get an acoustic glass which will block out that noise especially. And then as long as your surveyor measures them correctly and gets that tight fit, and as long as obviously you have to leave a bit of a gap around the window to let the PVC expand and de-expand, but that's not the question, then what you can do is have a complete sealed unit, sealed window, properly fitted with acoustic glass. And I think that's probably even more so than a triple glazed window, but more so the acoustic glass makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, that
That's
would
what I
make
would say.
sense. And is it a question that gets asked much, that people kind of know their
If they live
position?
somewhere that's noisy,
busy roads,
road,
next to an airfield or
if you
something
live on
like
a
that.
main road, I would probably say the main road, if you live on somewhere like Queen's Drive in Swindon, main road traffic, well, I'll be honest, a double glazed A+ rated window is going to solve your problems. You're not going to hear that road noise. If you take that upper level and you go right train station, train line right behind the back of the property, then I'd recommend the acoustic glass over the A+ rated. It's still A+ rated, but it's an acoustic glass, and actually tends, because the acoustic glass is more expensive, on the front of the property you can actually have just an A+ double glaze.
Of course,
because it's just really that one.
It doesn't look
zone
any different, so you wouldn't know.
Really?
So you can, and we've done that quite a few times, where you've got the acoustic at the back where the noise is, and then at the front you've just got your standard A+ rated.
Amazing. So in other words, do raise why you're looking to replace your windows.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? Lots of people change their windows for different reasons. Some people it's energy efficiency, some people it's keeping up with the Joneses, but actually a big one for some people is noise reduction.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than trying to get to sleep.
Incessant noise.
That's my wife. I always have the window open. She
Excellent.
constantly moans at me.
Well, that's the other. I'll be honest, I must admit, I've been in a customer's house and they, funnily enough, were asking me about acoustic glass. And when I was talking to the customer about we could do this, we could do that, and then they'll be honest, the wife turned around to the husband and said, "What is the point of all this? You sleep with the window open." And it was at that point I said, "Yeah, I don't really think the acoustic glass is going to make much difference, sir."
That's a good
So
point.
true.
That is
So
a good
true.
point. Change of tact, as we sort of put them together, how long does it typically take to install a conservatory from start to finish? I think we aim that one at you.
So
Are we saying a new build?
a new build.
We'll
So
go
if we
new
go
build.
for a new build and a standard new build extension, we now try and massively under promise and over deliver with the way we schedule. We've learned over the years of doing this that we'd like to get an extension from start to finish with no hiccups, no anything, 6 weeks. But we just know that if we say 6 weeks and we don't give you a longer period, the realistic time is probably 6 to 12 weeks. So what we do is we'll build a schedule for 6 to 12 weeks for you. And we'll guarantee we'll be out of your air after that 12 weeks. So 6 to 12 weeks is what I'd say from start to finish, without trying to overpromise, because we've done it before where we've actually completed an extension in 6 weeks and 2 days, and the customer's been a little bit frustrated because it's 2 days over. But if you say something and you say 6 weeks,
we'll get this done in 6 weeks for you.
Don't say it if you can't. Whereas now we're a lot more. We've kind of understood over the years, and that becomes experience. And as you get older and so on, we've kind of learned that if you just under-promise 6 to 12 weeks, you'll get a first schedule. Well, actually, probably your first schedule will be around 6 to 7 weeks of that. But obviously, the schedule can move about depending on things that happen, weather and all that sort of thing. So 6 to 12 weeks is a really sensible time to build a normal standard extension from start to finish. And after 12 weeks, I'd expect all the snagging, everything to be completely fine.
And one of the things we do as well is obviously you'll have your designated project manager, but what we'll always do is we'll finish a project before we move on to the next one. And I think that's always people's fear, isn't it? That they're going to get someone to come along, then they get a better job or a bigger job or something like that with a one-man band or something. But
our commitment, and I suppose it comes back to the way that we schedule the work in the first place, our commitment to each customer is there are different stages of the build that happen. So you have your building teams that will come in and do your base works and your builders, building work. They won't necessarily put the frames and roof on because they're specialists in building bases. Then you'll have your roof and frame teams in, and they won't be able to do your brickwork because they're specialists in the frames and roof, and then you have your plaster electricians. But what we say is when the two major points of the build is the base works going in and the frames and roof. Now the base teams are only on your job. If there's a problem with brick matching and it isn't going to be a 10-week delay or anything, which never happens, but then that team is on there from day one till finish. So they'll have to wait for parts. We don't want to move them off. They're not going to pop and finish off another job in the afternoon. They're literally on your job. And that's the commitment we make to scheduling, which of course means it very, very rarely. But of course, if you're on the next job and that one delays and you've got to overrun, then we'll move that job. But when they come onto your job, we'll show you the same commitment by making sure they don't go off and do anything else. So it is one job per builder, one job per frame and roof fitting until it's finished.
And presumably that timescale, does that all change depending on the size of the construction?
Not really. I know that sounds...
That's why I asked it, because I was listening to you thinking, actually, it doesn't sound like it does.
No, and I'll tell you why. And it really sort of had this conversation with a customer before. But you build an extension, so day one, I don't want to run through it all, but day one, you dig out the footings and you fill the footings. Well, that's day one. You can't do anything until the footings are dry. So even if you're building an absolutely tiny porch or a huge extension, day one you're going to dig it in, fill it, and then day two is bringing it up to date. You've got to let that dry. And so it's just stages. So yes, obviously it's different, but we're not talking weeks different, more days than weeks.
Fine, that makes sense. I should have followed with this question actually after the first one, because you may have already covered this. I'll bring it up anyway, just in case. Are triple glazed windows really worth the extra cost compared to double glazing?
Well, that is a question we get asked a lot. We get asked a lot about triple glazing. Often when we go and see a customer, they might just assume that we're doing triple glazing. And triple glazing is a funny one because when it came out, we genuinely thought it was going to take the industry by storm. We thought everyone, in the same way that when double glazing got invented and everyone was going around replacing their single glaze for double, what we actually found was that yes, there is a market for triple glazing, but it is quite a small market. And I think the reason is that it is more energy efficient than double. That's a fact. But the difference between what the customer has now, which is generally, it doesn't have a rating or a very low rating, to an A+ rated double, because obviously we only do the A+, we don't do the A rated, we do the A+ double. The difference between what they've got now and what we're putting in is such a big difference. And the difference between the A+ rated double and the triple glazing is about that. So it is a difference. And over the 10 years of their heating bills, when they look at it, it does pay for itself. But we are talking about quite a small difference for what is generally about 20-25% extra on the cost. So that tends to be the thing that puts customers off. But again, certain customers, that's what they want. They want the ultra energy efficient, and exactly.
I think an important thing when you talk about triple glazing is to understand what triple glazing actually is, because what a lot of companies will do is they'll market a triple glazing. Now the 44mm triple glazing, which they don't really sell in this country very rarely because the machinery
they do quite like Germany,
Norway. That is actually better than A+ rated double glazing. It's a really good product. It's very difficult to get hold of. Very, 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 very expensive. We very rarely sell it in the UK because the machinery in the UK isn't set up to build that. So then you look at what is in the market in the UK. You've got your standard 28mm triple glazed windows, which is actually less energy efficient than a double glazed. And you will have companies that will sell the triple glazed because
they'll market triple glazing. glazing, but actually it's,
You're only listening to one word, the triple.
Yeah,
You're not looking at anything else as triple glaze. Well, if you've got 28mm triple glaze compared to a 28mm double glaze, it's a fact. It's scientifically proven that the double glaze is better. Yeah. So then you go on to the other product that they sell. So the 28mm triple glaze, it isn't worth it. Then you look at the other product that is more available in the UK market. One that we sell is a 36mm triple glazing. The difference between the 36mm triple glazing and the AA+ rated double glazing is very marginal. And I always remember it's a little bit like, in my opinion, and everyone's got a different opinion, but it's a little bit like, I don't know if you remember years and years ago, Microsoft bought out and boasted that it had 100,000 more colours per second per bit. And it was actually more colours per second than your human eye can process. Yeah. So therefore, yes, it is better, but you couldn't see that anyway. Yeah. And I feel as if the marketplace that we're in at the minute, I personally believe the double grade A+ rated is by far the better window. And actually weight-wise, triple glazed windows is extraordinarily heavy. Really? And that puts a lot of press on hinges. Now, with our guarantee with a 20-year, you're covered. But I do know a lot of companies that fit triple glazed. If you look at terms and conditions, their guarantee on a triple glazed window, although it says 10 years, we do 20, but 10 years. Actually, the hinge is only guaranteed for 2 years, and there's a reason for that. It's because that triple glazed window is heavy, very, very heavy. Yeah. Very, very heavy.
It's doing a lot of work.
It's doing a lot of work. So
and it is important when it's heavy. I always remember when I had a replacement when I lived Bristol direction and got one of the windows in the conservatory replaced with a cat flap in it.
Yeah.
And the guy came in and he went, "Oh, right, can you take that out to the conservatory for me?" It was like a mate as well. He said, "You take that out, I'm just going to go and grab something from the van." So I took it out and then put it down just a little bit too hard. And I nearly cried, as did he when he came back. And to be honest, he went, "I've got to put this back in the van."
Yeah, I did that. I went to site once to help the boys.
Devastated.
And I had a little whinge because they'd lent a bit of glass up against the customer's sort of gated. Yeah. So I said, "You can't do that." So I moved and dropped.
Mine wasn't even drop it. It's not because it's highly.
I just went.
Yeah. It's just went. It was unbelievable. But
just quickly as well on a little bit like the first question, really. You mentioned about the acoustic glass. As people think, oh, well, I'm near a railway, I'll get triple glazing. As Andy said, they're better off getting acoustic. The other good thing about that as well is that it looks exactly the same. So if you were to go for your analogy of the normal double glazing at the front, acoustic at the back, but actually if you go for double glazed at the front, triple at the back, they actually look quite different because it's a different finish on the inside because of the beads. And so actually, from a customer's point of view of what they actually see and use, they're again better off doing that than going for half triple and half double. They'd be better off going for double and acoustic.
Yeah. Okay. I do like that presumably you guys have, unless someone comes in and go, "Nope, I'm having this."
Yeah.
You're able to actually guide.
We do a bit of triple. We're not. It sounds a bit like we're slagging it off, but we just tend to find that actually
that's what
customers
we need.
Yeah,
we need you to know what you're talking about. That's the point.
And customers appreciate that actually. Rather than being, "Oh yeah, it's a more expensive product, let's push that." We just tend to be straight with people. This is what you get for that. This is what you get for that.
Yeah. Love it.
Make your own mind up.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll give you the information. Some people like triple glaze and some people don't.
Well, this is now, the next one's a very much personal opinion thing, I think, but a common question. What's the most popular door colour right now? And step further with this, does it affect my home's value? Who do I throw that one to?
Well, I'll tell you a funny story actually when it comes to door colours. When we made the showroom, we've got 10 composite doors in here. And what we've actually now done is we've got the dual colour. So there's about 20 different colours. Yeah. Because obviously people always came in, want to see the colour you haven't got and all that. Yeah. And funnily enough, we said, didn't we, which ones we thought were the most popular? And we were completely wrong. So we had it in our mind, which were our most popular composite doors. And then when we actually looked at what we'd ordered, we were completely wrong. Really? So, but I would probably generally say the anthracite grey. Possibly.
Yeah, I would say grey. I'd say an anthracite grey. I think the slate greys really become quite popular. It looks wonderful. I think we're in a sort of grey colour sort of world at the minute. I think that is kind of the...
It does look good now you say that. I've seen a few near me and sort of gone past and gone, "Oh, that looks good."
Seen some of our advertising. We've got, in fact, behind you, we've got a load of grey sort of... I think greys are real colour of our time at the minute, isn't it? Which is probably the
A
suitable.
lot of people like
the green, the
charcoal green in this area. If you've got
green.
a certain type of property, with a certain type of brickwork and things like that, the charcoal green's popular. And then I always like it. We've got a group where we put all the pictures on, obviously the before and after pictures and stuff like that. And I always like it when actually we get one that's a real random colour. We've obviously had Barbie pink. We've had
that door haunts me. My wife really wanted to have that. The ex-wife. I better stop saying that. She might make it a reality.
It's not his ex-wife. It's a joke. Sorry, Mrs. Andy.
The Barbie door. We've got Sarah, who does a lot of our social media. I plead with her not to put it on there because my wife literally looked at it and was like, "Can we have that?" No. We've got anthracite grey.
I mean, there is. You got bright purples, bright yellows. You got bright greens.
And listen, I always respect a customer that says, "You know what? I'm going to go for this."
It was a yellow door, but it wasn't.
Canary yellow.
Canary yellow. It was a customer for Norwich City. It looked amazing, didn't it? It really looked amazing. I thought it was going to look. It looked amazing. So yeah.
And obviously, where everything is bespoke, we've had a customer.
You can have any rail colour you want.
Yeah.
Really?
Any rail colour. It did cost more because it has to be specially manufactured.
Okay.
But you can have literally pick any round colour you want.
The customer that's a Norwich City fan, we thought he was joking at first. And he said what he wanted was canary yellow windows with green sashes.
Wow.
And it took about 3 months to arrive because obviously it was a complete special order.
It took them 3 weeks to order it. They kept sending it back saying this is
But going back to the original question, I think, anthracite grey is very popular. I mean, again, we always encourage people to, either look at jobs that we've done or come into the showroom.
That's what's so good about the quote, though. We've got the system. It's on our website live now. You can go on there and you can design your own door. Okay. But also we've got the vision. When we come out to quote, we can take a photo of your house. We can put the door in there because you'll be surprised how many customers are certain they want a particular colour.
We've touched on it multiple episodes, haven't we?
I think it's good.
I'm intrigued to know if this Norwich fan, then with the delay, was on going, "Go on, let's be having you." Look it up, Delia Smith.
Let's be having you! Come on!
Unfortunately, as well, by the time it fitted it, they've been relegated again. But just on the house value, I suppose again on that, do windows and doors affect the property of the cost of your house? I think we often talk to customers about home improvements being an investment in the property.
Yeah.
So what we often tend to find is that if you've got windows that are hanging out, wooden winds, condensation, what you tend to find is a prospective buyer of your house will turn around and say, right, I know I've got to spend X amount doing the bathroom, doing the windows, doing that. So we do get quite a lot of customers that will, for curb appeal and bits and pieces that they can't sell the house, they say, well, I'm going to replace my windows in order that I can sell it. So we do get that.
Yeah, or sell it quicker.
Sell it quicker and bits and pieces like that. And I think, again, we'll talk to customers, certainly with the living spaces, when you actually look at the floor plan of your property, what that is actually worth in today's market.
Yeah.
And we're often talking to customers, younger customers, older customers that are actually looking to invest in their home. And a lot of people think, well, if I can make my home energy efficient, look good, secure, then it is, but how you quantify that is
other than I've got to assume that, like, take the Norwich example, is that you can only probably sell to other Norwich fans.
Yes. His plan was not to move anytime soon because he probably struggled to narrow the margin down.
It's like, it's my house, I want it my way, and I absolutely applaud that, but it might not.
Yeah, and I think with doors as well, I do believe that it is probably the main thing you see on the day that you go and look at a property.
Of course it is.
And if you ever, obviously on social media, you'll always see people that have got their keys and they're taking that selfie on day one. That picture is always in front of the door.
Yeah.
So I just think it's that thing, and it's that moment where you open the door to your new house. I do think if your door is tatty and not in great shape, then it might not have value, but it could add people actually wanting to buy your property.
The other thing we find with that as well, is that actually, as a company, we will go and see someone we're not sizist. We'll go and see someone for 1 window or 10. And there are a lot of companies out there will only come and see if it's a full house. Whereas actually we see a front door appointment as a great way in. They might do the door, and then, in 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, that it's quite likely
Did you
they're
just
going to do
use
the
the
rest of it.
pen that the door's the way into?
Yeah, they'll leave it ajar for us.
Sorry. No wonder you didn't get voted.
Oh, this old thing. But yeah, so actually we do a lot of single doors, don't we? And that works for us, so it is a lot of the time that's where people start.
It makes sense. Irrelevant question, but are white doors still popular anymore?
Yeah.
They are still?
Yeah. They're still
They're kind of the safe bet, I guess, aren't they? But
they're also, to the right property, to the right everything, they're a wonderful feature to the house. PVC doors are still very vibrant market. Obviously, composite doors,
they're the showstopper.
they're the
almost,
showstopper.
aren't
They look
Yeah.
amazing. You come into the showroom, they look absolutely fantastic. But they are, the problem with composite doors is you get a lot of composite doors that fade, that do this, obviously. So for us, we have to sell a really good standard of composite door with a colour-through system, so that doesn't happen. So when you start looking at that market and you've got a white PVC door, the price point's quite different. So for a more of affordable door, the white PVC still looks amazing. Really does.
Yeah,
We
agreed.
fitted one just recently put on social media. It looked really nice. I think it was the Edwardian 2 door. It looked amazing. So yeah, there's still a marketplace for it, definitely.
still on the same subject then,
Yes.
about doors. Can I install a new front door without replacing the frame, or do they need to match?
No, you can't. You need to replace the frame and the door with that. The door needs to sit on the frame. It just will not manage.
People often think you can't you? You say you take an old wooden door, for example, or an internal door, and you can kind of hang, a wooden door on the existing frame with the old kind of, Yale lock or something like that. Whereas, all of ours are multi-point locking system. Yeah, so if you're replacing your door, it's likely that it isn't a multi-point locking system. So all of the locks, lock into the frame. And it is something that people often think, oh, that would be a bit cheaper if I just replace the door. But for anything of any quality, then no, it's not an option.
And you can still have gaps appearing on the outside of the frame as well.
And just the mere physics of the door, if you think about where the door strength comes from, it doesn't come from the slab that's moving. It comes from the part that's installed. So even if it was physically possible to put a sash onto an old
the
wooden
exact
frame,
door that was
we just wouldn't. You just wouldn't do that because the damage you do to the frame, taking the old door off and everything like that. So it's just not really an option. The strength of the base or the frame is so important to the actual door working.
Still on doors then. And we have mentioned both of these so far. What's the difference between UPVC and composite doors, and which is better for security?
Do you want the long answer, or let's go for the shorter answer?
Highlights.
Yeah, the highlights. So
Cliff notes.
I think the major difference when you talk, if we deal with the first one of locking systems. Now we're very fortunate; we've got both of our locking mechanisms on our composite door and our PVC door, which are safe, so secure by design as standard. Which I think we've covered in every episode. I won't go too far into that. But
I think we're going to go into in more detail in an episode coming up.
So police approved locking mechanisms is the best on the market that you can achieve, and they test these rigorously. So then you go on to what is the absolute massive difference. So UPVC doors, they're obviously a straight white PVC door. You've got no colour in it. There's no grain in it. The efficiency is slightly better on a composite door just because of the foam filled protection it's got inside of the glass, the hardboard chipboard. I won't again go into too much detail, but the price point really difference between the two become into the finish. So PVC is straight and not very much colour apart from the colours of PVC you can have, whereas the composite is a moulded panel which gives it the appearance of wood with a beautiful painted finish.
Yes.
So that's, I think, probably the main differences are.
And we get asked a lot, customers come in here, what should I have? And it's like, well, it very much depends what you want. If you want your door to stand out and be a colour, then we always recommend the composite. If you want like for like, but you just want it to be warmer, more secure, then a PVC is a very viable option. But we're lucky that they're all secured by design. They're all fitted to the same standard and everything like that. So in terms of security, they both absolutely do their job. But composite being a 44mm thick slab, often security is actually about how it makes you feel. And sometimes for a customer shutting that composite door, that thick composite door, that just makes them feel a little bit more secure.
Yeah.
But then I've also had customers asking about the amount of glass, you know, or we wouldn't want a large piece of glass because that wouldn't be secure. It is. You know, we use tough and safety glass, and it's fitted properly. It's again, it all regulates to secure by design. But again, for that customer, if they've got two little squares, they think, well, no one can go through it. So actually, it's a very,
makes
very
you feel better about the situation.
Exactly, yeah. It's a very, very personal situation. That's why we use the visualize. We come and measure it up. We show you the brochures. We'll show you the PVC. We show you the composite. And you know, it sometimes actually going to see someone for a door can take longer than going to see for 10 windows. You know, because you know.
I mean, I kind of got lost because you can have so many designs with amount of glass, number of glass panes, where they are, the shape of
Talks
them.
of just having two doors.
Exactly.
A or B.
It just was a lot easier. But
we
look lovely, but you've then got to work out, and including how much light do I want coming in where this door's opening into. But the other one as well was that you've got choices on a lot of these of where the letterbox goes. If there's a letterbox, where it goes, like down at the bottom or in the middle in the stereotypical way.
Well, famously, the best social media post we ever had was, we call it Letterbox Gate, don't we? Because it was basically a before and after, quite a simple before and after. We didn't think much of it. We do them all the time. We had this one, and honestly, it went mad. We had about 250,000 impressions on it and stuff like that. And basically, it's because it was a low letterbox. A few posts, someone started kicking off about a post officer.
There was one of those external post boxes, so everyone was sort of messaging, can't believe you'd have that letterbox there. Well, they had the other end of the garden had a sort of post box in there. And you enjoyed that because you used to wind up.
I used to reply and wind people up and stuff like that, which, you know.
All's fair in love and war.
Just in reference to the difference between the two, I think as well it's important. So for my property, I've got a composite door for the look and style.
Yeah.
And on the back of the house, I've got a PVC door, a back door. And that's kind of whenever I've gone out to see customers quoting, unless you're dead set, you really want that beautiful composite door at the back, we do actually normally recommend a PVC door at the back because it's sort of vanity, it's sort of security. The security is exactly the same. I'm really confident with the locking mechanisms we're doing, both are secure by design. But generally, I would say, I don't know what your thoughts are, but mostly it's composite door at the front, PVC at the back.
Apologies if this is a daft question or going down a rabbit warren, but we were talking about triple glazing and I forget what you call it now, the soundproofing one. Acoustic glass. Can you get that on doors?
Yes, you can. Don't really recommend triple glazing doors. It's far too heavy. It's far too heavy.
So you can get the acoustic glass
definitely
on the doors.
Yeah. And even when we fitted triple glazing, we've talked customers out of having triple glazed doors. Just, it's just that one.
Because obviously I picked up your example where it backed onto a railway line, and so they could go with the acoustic glass at the back, but double glazed
on a PVC.
And it's like, well, okay, if we're going to go UPVC,
you can have the acoustic glass on there.
Oh, cool. Okay.
It reminds me a bit, obviously, having that composite at the front. It's sort of business at the front, kind of party at the back.
It's like his hair.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the mullet.
Mullet boy.
I haven't seen him for a while, thankfully.
It's coming on, mate. It's coming on. Mine's got
just before. Moving on.
You know that I'm the one that normally wants to move.
That's quite nasty, actually, because he always brings up hair when we're around Jim.
I know. It's just no need, mate. Solar panel for a love machine.
He's got so much, he's grown it.
I've just grown through it. How often should I replace my windows, and what signs should I look for?
Good question.
I think there's a few different reasons for upgrading. For obviously, if you've got older windows at security and you've got younger kids, then I don't recommend upgrading them then. If you want child locks, if your house is cold and you're wasting money on the energy, if they're starting to look worn or tired. But some really good signs of the windows needing to be replaced is older windows have rubber gaskets which shrink away, and you can visibly see that, which means that they're not protecting the weather. You can also see PVC windows that haven't been reinforced and they sort of start to bow slightly. Once they start to bow and that window's not at 90 degrees anymore, the mechanisms keeping the air and the glass out stop to work. If they start really needing adjusting continuously and you can't shut the windows properly, and I do find it often when you go and give a quote to a customer, you'll go into the house and they'll say, yeah, I can't get this window open. And you'll be like, oh, why is that then? Oh, it just won't open anymore. And I'm sort of like, oh, okay. And then overnight, it just doesn't stop opening. So that's months and years of them not opening that window. So things when you can't get things opening shut's a really good sign, I'd say.
Which is an interesting one, and I'm nervous saying this in front of you guys, but I'm going to say it anyway, is that we bought a new build.
Yeah.
So what's it? My daughter's 13 years old. It will have been 14 years ago this month, probably. And the problem is time flies, and I still think I'm still in a new build.
Yeah. The windows are new. Yeah.
That is now within the realms that I should be looking at them.
Yeah.
And I'm basing that on some of the things that are happening in the windows and doors as well.
On the new build estate, and I'm just saying this, 10 years is probably the maximum you'll get out of those windows.
Yeah, we do a lot of work in new build. Well, what we would still consider new builds. I think other things that maybe people look at as to why they would change them, condensation's quite a big one.
Yeah.
Condensation on the inside. You get up in the morning, a lot of a frustration for customers. They've got to get the Karcher out because then you start to get black mould around the windows. That's the reason why often people do them. Often they discolour. If they use recycled PVC, they'll go. You often see those front doors that are like a creamy colour. So there's many reasons. Going back to the noise thing, a normal car will drive past and kids will walk past and it's like they're in the front room. Well, actually, it's because there's big gaps in your windows and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so there's many reasons why people might, get a quote or something like that. I think the question about how often should you do it very much depends what was in there originally. My sort of spread of customers that we've gone to go and see that we've changed their windows goes from, I think the oldest ones we've done is about 38-year-old windows.
Wow.
And the newest ones, as in PVC double glazed I'm talking about, obviously we've done wooden ones that are even older, and the newest ones are 6 years old. And the 38-year-old windows were in a far better condition than the 6-year-old windows. That's the crazy thing. Sometimes you go and see a customer and be honest, you look at their windows, you're thinking, these don't actually look too bad. And you find out they're 25 years old or something like that.
Just the vents have started to go, they've been fitted correctly.
Yeah, or they're cold. But actually, if they were good quality to start with, and I always say that to a customer, these were obviously good quality when you put them in or the previous homeowners put them in. And other times, as I said, I think I've said it before on one of the pods, I drove in and I'm like, why am I here? I'm here for windows. You get in there and they're condensated, they're 6-year-old windows, they're 6-year-old houses.
And they're the ones living with them day in, day out, so they know when things aren't quite right.
So really, there is no, listen, we do a 20-year guarantee on ours. They've all been over-engineered so that they outlast the guarantee. Yeah. So, but generally speaking, people tend to look, a bit like yourself, 10 to 15-year-old windows tends to be the kind of time frame that people will start to inquire about it, generally because it's like anything, isn't it? The washing machine goes at the same time as the fridge and bits and pieces like that. They've all got a kind of a
10 to 15 years.
And presumably you get involved in everything. If I talk about, and I can use experience of what we've got, is that they French doors where they're double and glass pane on the outside of that. Where we actually got small square opening windows that they could be open even if it was raining. You do all of that stuff as well?
Yeah.
So in other words, you can go looking at all of it. I'm sounding like I'm doing it to buy now, but it's just helping me to sort of go on the whole thought process now. So I then sit there and go, crikey, this is going to cost me a lot of money. You guys, we can put it on finance.
Yeah. You can spread the payments. You can spread it at payments, or you can do one window at a time. You could do the priority bits and pieces like that.
Does that? Do you get a benefit if you're doing? I mean, the extreme is one at a time, or a few at a time. Do you still feel a benefit on the house?
Yeah, massively. Yeah. Especially if
I know you're only as strong as the weakest link.
No, if you go into it, if you've got like a back bedroom, and probably if I would say the most common window to replace one at a time for is a kid's bedroom. I'd say that's probably, if you're going to go and do one window in people.
You've got a load of condensation and we can offer a payment option and spread the cost or whatever, but actually if a customer can only afford and we've had it before. I've gone to see customers where they're newborn babies in a room that's mould and on the inside because every night it's getting condensated. So they might start with that. Or they start with the front room because that's where they're sat and they're getting a cold crick on their neck, and stuff like that.
And the door, the front door, you said about how important that is because that's the first look. Okay, then another question, and this I'm going off piste a little bit here.
Controversial.
Always is at which point do you turn around and say, like, this isn't my forever home, I'm hoping that we're going to move within the next 3 years or something? Would you still do it?
I think a big answer to that question, it was slightly covered earlier, but I think the big answer is home buyers, because of the way that the buying market is now, everyone's looking for ways to take your purchase price down and bring it down.
Yeah.
And you're not an expert on windows, neither are they, but you can tell there's something on that door.
Yeah.
And so will they, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And people aren't daft. If they go in, they open the door and they see, right, this wooden door, you see it, they're almost nudging each other thinking, right, this door needs doing, we'll get the price down on that. How much are doors, Google? How much are doors? £4,000. Oh, yeah, that'll be £4,000 off the asking price. We're also going to have to organise. So it's going to take our time. I think it's well worth it. I personally.
Which is why I wanted to address it, because it's all too easy to go, there's no point doing that because it's not my forever. Now, you might not go and put a living space on it because it's not your forever home or longer term home. But windows, doors, things like that, it does make sense.
And there's always a point that something's going to break, isn't there? And being honest, once something breaks, it's a bit more of a nightmare than just keeping up with it in the first place. And
just final on the original question about how often you should do it. Again, sometimes customers, their surroundings make a difference to that. You go to houses, sometimes they've got these massive overgrown trees and stuff like that, and those windows are getting absolutely battered, with all the stuff coming off the trees. We've obviously go and do a lot of properties that are, right out on with a cracking view, but of course they've got that wind absolutely hammering. And look, we've obviously got high quality products, got a 20-year guarantee, but whatever you're putting in there, whereas if you're in some little secluded, cul-de-sac with no elements, then they're obviously going to last longer, so that does make a difference.
That makes sense. I can safely say we're not going to get anywhere near through these 20, so we're going to be doing these again with even more and any more that you add. So I'm going to sort of almost cherry pick, and I'm going to probably keep it on the thread for now. What's the best way to clean and maintain UPVC windows to keep them looking new?
Soapy water.
Simple as that.
Soapy water.
Yeah, people think you need a solvent or this or that.
Soapy water. On our windows, you've got an easy clean hinge, which is wonderful. So the window opens as a fire opener to 90 degrees, so you can't get your hand out to clean it.
Yeah.
There's 2 buttons, top and bottom. You can press them, slide the window into the middle, so you can get your hand out and just give them a wipe. Soapy water. Bit of fairy washing up liquid and a bit of water. That's more.
Other washing up liquids are available.
Oh, no, only fairy for me. Hands, fairy soft. I'm joking.
Sorry, I don't know if it's too late to actually add it, but I have just had a question come through actually from a customer.
Okay.
Just asking if any of us have ever been in a band.
Oh God.
Do you want to head that one up, Andy? Or
this is a really, really problematic argument for me at the moment, and he's sat there smiling because he feels as if he's won the argument, but he hasn't.
Well, I have won the argument.
My esteemed gentleman here, he claims that he's in a band.
No, not that I'm in a band. Sorry, I was in a band.
He claims he was in a band that played their biggest gig at the Millennium, year 2000, at Ashbash, and he's always gone on about Ashband 2000. Now, a few years ago, he's been going on about this for years, by the way. A few years ago,
I was the drummer.
I thought I'd put this whole argument to bed because I rang his wonderful mother up, Bridgie, who, if anyone's ever met Bridge, will tell you that, he can do whatever he wants. She loves him. He's an angel. And I rang up Bridgie, me and a couple of other people witnessed it, and we said, hello, Bridge, you right? She was like, hello, Andrew, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. I said, can you answer me a question, Bridgie? Was your son Joseph ever in a band? And her words were, oh, that's a bit of a stretch. No, he wasn't. I do think he wanted to play tambourine once.
Yeah.
And then I felt it was put to bed, but unfortunately it's been reared.
It's reared its ugly head. Well, and the thing is that, bless Bridget, but she has embarrassed herself there because she wasn't actually present at our biggest gig. And so basically we had a band called Cheddar Rocks. And I was the drummer, and obviously had lead singer, guitarist, and we used to practice obviously after school. And coming up to the Millennium, the biggest. By the way,
there's no photos. No photos.
No, it wasn't that
his
sort
mum
of
doesn't even.
His mum. My mum wasn't invited. That's why she didn't. She was actually in London
for years.
at the fireworks.
You were practicing for years at the school.
A good friend of mine. His dad was a major in the army, and he got a big marquee and in a cul-de-sac where they lived. And Cheddar Rocks played. we bought in the midnight, and it was the greatest gig anyone's ever seen. So actually we decided to hang up our boots because we realised we were never going to be able to outdo that first ever gig. So Cheddar Ox was put to bed. But obviously this year, the reason it's reared its ugly head was a few of the fans and stuff like that, because it's the 25th year anniversary of the big night. So yeah, there's a video out there, you know.
It's not just out there. Let's play it now.
Ready?
Yeah.
Cheddar Ox, the reunion tour. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4.
Let's please don't. Please don't. Like, cut. No. Right, this is really taking the end because he's bought his son a drums kit, who's now not allowed to go on the drum kit while his dad plays it.
I think you'll find Jack's very good, actually.
There's never been any song. Let me
recovers back.
Let me explain this. You cannot claim to be a band with no photography. Yeah. There's never been a song that no one's ever heard. Yeah. His own mother, and he was such a mummy's boy as a kid. And please show that photo. If there's I'll send you one. He was such a mummy's boy. There's been his own mother who once claimed
his egg on Briddy's face because it's been confirmed.
His own mother who once actually said that he played. He was a very good street hockey player, which is absolute lies. Again, there was semi-professional. No lies. This is absolute false. He's got a few people that...
Anyway, it's been proved by the host of the party. We move on.
This is why I'm sat in the middle as well. It's not just the entrepreneur of the year, it's the band member of the year.
Band. Rubbish.
We'll do it. Right. I'm going to only have time for one more question because we need to wrap
Pick a
this
good one, because they've been quite easy so far.
They have.
The one that's going to trip us up.
Do I think Joey was in a band?
See, it's difficult to know what you're going to see as a good one, but I'm going to go with this one. What's the longest lasting window material, and does TWC's 20-year guarantee cover everything? We've kind of probably have covered that one actually already, haven't we?
Yeah, we've covered that one.
UPVC.
Do another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, UPVC, 20-year guarantee covers everything.
I quite like this question. It is off of windows, it's onto conservatories. Can I add a conservatory to a small garden without it feeling cramped?
Definitely. All conservatories are bespoke, made to measure. So we've done them as little as 2 by 2, 2 metres by 2 metres. Someone just wanted to jet out slightly and have a little glass lean-to roof and just have a little area to have their coffee in the morning. It's sat in the sun.
Okay.
You could do absolutely any size that you want.
And still leave yourself a bit of garden.
Definitely. So yeah, bespoke. Get it designed. Make sure you get someone properly out to come and have a look at it and design it properly. And obviously make sure that everything works with the local authority, which we'll deal with for you anyway. But yeah, any size you want.
Okay, because that was a quick answer, I'm going to do one, possibly 2 more, because I've just looked at them. First one is, what's the biggest mistake people make when choosing new windows or doors?
They don't buy from us.
Nice. Good answer. I like that one.
True answer, not taking their time to think about the design. That, for me, when I go and see a customer, often they'll go, oh yeah, that window there. Well, that window's opening a certain way. Well, just because it used to open that way, everything we do is bespoke. So I'll actually spend quite a lot of the time with the customer talking about how they're going to have it opening. Would you actually need that opener? Would you not prefer more glass, more light, less PVC? Yeah. Would you like to bookend them so that you've got as you look at the house, you've got an opener this side and an opener that side. So I always try and make it symmetrical. So I think, that the design process, when someone comes out and gives you a quote, yes, of course we can do like for like, obviously. But actually for me, that it's taking your time to think about how you want it to look.
Usable it is.
And to do it. Like you said, it's an investment. It's like, have some fun, have some creativity.
I'll always say to a customer when I go and measure them up, come with me, because I'll talk to you about how it's opening. Have you thought about opening like this? So that for me would be the mistake people make. Oh, you just do it as it is. and then they're stuck with it, you know. And it's like you talk to customers about Georgian bar or something like that. Oh no, we definitely need Georgian bar. Why? Oh, because it currently has it. So, you know, is that what you want? Do you think that makes it look better? You know, so the design for me isn't just
open your mind.
The thing I would say as well is very similar, to be honest, but come and have a look.
Yeah.
Come and look at the product. You sometimes go to a quote and, you know, it's 15, 20 window house, and you go to show them a window and, oh no, I don't need to see that. A window's a window. A window really isn't a window. So I would really recommend going to a showroom, not necessarily just our showroom, but come to a showroom, have a look at the product properly before you go and spend a lot of money, because there is nothing worse. The reason we invested to get the visualized tool so you could see what they look like was because I'll never forget the customer's face after we 22 odd windows in anthracite grey, and it just didn't look right. And I thought it looked wonderful, but she just didn't like the look of that window. So, you know, to take your time and come and have a look.
Look at the colour.
Have a look at it.
Look at the, you know, we did the flush fit windows, tilt and turn, all that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Well, actually, for your property, that might be the best option.
Perfect window, I totally agree. Come and look at a showroom.
Like it.
Go on, then, one final one.
One final one, and it was one of the things I've often noticed with you guys is that you got a lot of reviews, which is impressive in itself to even get reviews, frankly, these days, because we're such an apathetic society.
Yeah.
But how do I trust those reviews?
We're very proactive with our reviews, but we've also always had a rule that we don't delete a review, where we will not pay certain services so that you have more control over reviews. So we've got free subscriptions, probably the best word, with all of the Trustpilot and all
Google,
that. We're not going to pay for it because it gives you control to remove them. And I always say why you can trust our reviews is they're always recent, good, bad and ugly. And why I say it's good to have good, bad and ugly reviews on there, because I think it shows that we're not getting rid of
authenticity.
Exactly. If you've got 400-500 reviews in your, you know, no bad ones for over a year, come on, we've all been they're not real. We've been to top restaurants in the world. You know, we haven't, you know, I mean, but you've seen reviews of a top restaurant in the world where it's 4.8.
Can't please everyone.
You still have bad reviews. You still have people let down. If you've got a few hundred reviews and you haven't had a bad review in over a year, there's a problem.
Yeah, you're taking the bad ones out.
You say about being proactive. The thing that happens is that you get to reply to those and sort of like put them in context or address them.
And sometimes that, you know, being honest, sometimes they're not customers of ours. You know, sometimes we've had one where they've had a gripe with the person that worked for us, you know, and there's sort of personal vendetta and stuff like that. And that's fine, but they are what they are.
We leave them on there.
We leave them on there, and we leave them on there on purpose, because
point.
If you delete that one, well, actually, you know, you're going to delete all the old bad ones.
Yeah.
So they're all on there. And someone once said to me that, because we're 4.7 out of 5 stars on our Trustpilot and on our Google, which we're incredibly proud of.
We got to 1,000.
Yesterday, we went.
1,000?
I think we're on 1,003 Google reviews.
Yeah, Google. Sorry,
so
Google.
Yesterday we actually went over, and it was the great Sam Shah that took us over the 1,000.
My suit guy, love it.
So 1,000 Google reviews, but within that, we've got some bad ones, because you know what? We've made some mistakes. We've made some mistakes on fitting. You know, we've done some things that we're not proud of. But what we've always done is we've rectified them. But of course, what customers don't tend to do, if they're annoyed with you and put a bad review, if you then solve it a week later, they don't tend to go on and delete them, which is fine. And you know, but someone once said to me, if you take your reviews anywhere, if you take away the top 10%, because they're the nutters, they'll love everything. If you take away the bottom 10%,
I do that on TripAdvisor.
Yeah, they're the people that
worst.
Hate everything.
And
take the middle 80%. It gives you a really clear indication.
Put this in context as we wrap this one up now, is that, you know, it kind of almost sounds negative what you're saying there, but it's like, hang on, you still just said 4.7 out of 5.
Yeah.
Even when we're talking about there's been some bad ones. And I love that honesty and fair play to you guys.
You don't learn anything from a good review.
No.
Well done, pat on your back, you've done a good job. Yeah. You learn more from the bad reviews.
And we've changed processes within the business sometimes, haven't we? We've had a bad review.
Well, communication, I remember this
being the WhatsApp groups,
that you've identified on all kind of reviews and feedback is that somebody going, actually, it was the communication. They thought we weren't doing this where we actually were. Yeah. And so you improved your communication.
And I'll always remember the reason we've always been quite sticklers on not removing any reviews. I won't name any sort of company or anything, but we had a review platform once that we had reviews on. take all of our reviews off of that platform because we wouldn't pay a subscription. And the reason I wouldn't pay a subscription is because their sales guy told us that, well, if you get a bad review, you just get it removed. So we didn't want to do that.
It's pointless marking your own homework, isn't
What is
it?
the point?
Yeah.
We just have all the reviews on our website. We can control them. That's why we don't, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know that's the ethos of this content that we put together with the likes of you guys is authenticity is key. And so, great answer to that question. I think that wraps it up. We've still got a whole load we haven't answered, so we're going to be back to this topic, I think, on a future episode and do even
Make
more.
it a bit harder. That was.
I'll try, mate. I will try. But equally, get some more questions in. If there's questions that you have or you've had answered in the past, and it would be,
And
you
next
think it'd be
time-
handy for others to know.
Next time, if Joey couldn't do a fake question about his band, that was it.
Well, I'll be honest, I was about to say I'll probably write a song about this one day.
I won't be here. So
That's all he does. That's it.
thank you. As always.
Thanks,
Cheers.
guys.
Brilliant.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
We'll see you next time. Cheers.